Okay, this is probably going to be a decently long one. I have a lot to talk about, a lot to share. Everything that I talk about will be posted in the description, not in the comment section. Usually I like the comment section because that's where people look first. However, I think I have a lot to share, so I don't want to spam the comments like I have before, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the description. I want to start off by saying I do not like Graham Plattner. I haven't liked him since that Nazi tattoo came out. Ever since then, haven't trusted him, didn't like him. However, the Maine voters voted for him, so I considered it an interesting alliance, is how I put it, because also in California, there's a billionaire running, and I didn't like him either, but it seems after seeing the debates is that he is the best option, but I do not trust anyone that has a B in their money. So we're in trouble. People don't understand how much trouble we are in. And I'm trying to point this out. And the problem is the algorithm isn't friendly to my type of talk. And even on my blue sky, I still only have 70 followers with 17 people who have the notifications on. I think that's what that means when it says followers and following. So I don't know what that exactly means. But there is so much news happening that no one knows the grasp of the situation that we are in. We are in a humanity crisis. I expect millions of us to die when all this is said and done. Even when we gain office as Democrats and we have a majority, we need 2 terms majority to repair the United States. And even then, it will not repair the damages that was caused by this Trump administration that continues to be damaging until we fix everything that is wrong. So yes, this ties into the AI data centers. This ties into Elon Musk-esque satellite. This connects to Ubisoft in the gaming industry, and this connects to my argument with IHatePolitics. Because we actually agree, for whatever reason, he was confronting me, and then we had a chat, and everything he said agrees with my philosophy. So I'm going to share all of that. So I have a lot of things to read. I have a lot of things to share. So I want to start with IHatePolitics, because this leads into my philosophy on what we're currently dealing with. So my argument here starts with an Al Green stunned viewers with one powerful fact about the white nationalist march. So he starts off with a monologue. So from 0 seconds to 1 minute and 47 seconds. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to read you my response, read his response, I respond, and then he responds, and I respond back. So, here we go. Also, I know I wish I can edit, visual stuff for you guys. This is going to be strictly audio, but I don't have the brain capacity to edit this. And I don't know how to ask for help because my instructions may be unclear. I don't know. So we shall see.
So my question for you is, do you believe free speech should be absolute, or are there times it should have limits? Now, of course, we've had this conversation plenty of times, different variations of this conversation, but it seems to only be misused. And the only thing on this earth, at least in my opinion, that's absolute is, one, me being black. That is absolute. There's no question about it. And number 2, is death. Everybody gonna meet it one day, some sooner than others. So that is the only thing that's absolute. Anything else is no excuse. My opinion, government has a role into holding people accountable, not for their, difference of opinion or challenging or questioning or critiquing the government. Of course not. If I think Medicare for all, you think, for those who want it type of BS. No, our government should not be censoring or, throwing people in jail for that. But if you're like, for example, Chud the Builder, I'm pretty sure you guys heard him way too many times. Someone who is purposely using their free speech to cause chaos, dysfunction, division on purpose. They know this is going to somehow, some way bring some sort of violence. The entire book should be thrown over and over and over again.
Okay, I played it a little bit after because I felt like the finishing sentence mattered. So that's the full context. Of course, there's more, and I'll post it below so you can watch more of that. But I had to stop him right there because, and I'll get into the arguments. I'll get to my statement in a moment. But the point being is, it all depends on who's currently governing on why this statement is very dangerous, because we are going to be in government. And I agree. I don't know the person he's talking about, but Asmongold is a perfect example for me. He deserves to be in jail because, yes, he is just spouting chaos and he deserves to be in jail. The problem being is it expands. It's a forever expanding argument that there is no winning scenario, especially in a democracy where powers constantly shift. A democracy is the most flawed system in the world, but it is the best system for having the most freedoms. And we have lost a lot of our rights because, I'm not even going to say my opinion because I believe this in full authority that Trump did cheat, and I have evidence of that. I have video evidence. I have evidence of other people explaining how they cheated, and of course, ex-girlfriend of Elon Musk has confirmed it. But of course, this is just words that she spouts. I have more evidence. So I believe he cheated. So he overruled democracy and got his way into power, and he even explicitly says it, which I will post below to show you that yes, he says that after I rigged the election, when he's talking to I don't know who's in charge of FIFA, but someone in FIFA, bald guy I think it was, but democracy is the most flawed system, and there's no getting around it. So when we get back into power, we need to be careful on not getting corrupted ourselves, which I have posted beforehand, that we are going to have to make massive decisions that will corrupt us a little bit, and we need to make sure we keep that corruption in check because they aren't playing by the rules. I believe they cheated in the election. So, and then of course the gerrymandering situation. Things are not good. We don't have the right to have morals right now. We do need to fight dirty. This isn't fun. This isn't a debate. We're going to suffer a lot. Sorry. I'm getting heated here. People don't understand what our dire situation is. Like I mentioned with Elon Musk X satellites, they only last 5 years before they come into the atmosphere and burn up. That's a lot of chemicals that is just going to be staying there in the atmosphere, and it's going to hurt our capacity to live as the sun rays continue to hit our atmosphere. And since it's weakened, we're going to get even more heat. It's not good where we're at, and we need to treat climate change as a World War II level threat, and we need to be throwing inventions at it, throwing ideas at it. We are not in a good place here. So let me give you my response. This is where I'm going to have to stop you. Agreed on all points, but you have to remember the Palestinians are the enemy of our current government. So because you and I support them, we are speaking hate speech towards Israel and therefore anti-Semite, which I also have a proof of that, as in Congress they did pass a stupid law where if you're an anti-Israel, you are an anti-Semite and you hate all Jews. They made that very clear in the definitions, which is stupid. And I guarantee you that's not going to be rescinded when the Democrats take over, unless we get enough progressives in, and if they know about that rule, because they are passing so much that it's going to be buried. There's a lot of important things that need to be overturned. I do not know if we are ready for this. It's a mess. So everything, well, let me add this on here before I continue. Everything that Trump and his cronies have passed needs to be rescinded and removed. Everything needs to be rescinded and reversed. There is no debate about that because it's a mess. Okay, so going back to my statement, there is no winning the argument here. The only thing I can think of is when evil arrives after the history books is made clear, then we can say you cannot have memorabilia of this insignia or hold any symbol of that ideology. Like the Nazi symbol, unless it's in a museum, a person of private cannot hold this symbol in your house. But again, the Nazi symbol was not the originator. It's an Indian symbol of pride. So there's always going to be an argument to be made. And that's the problem, because now we are telling religious people of the Indian faith that their symbol is of hate and they cannot have that or worship it. That seems to be a concern for me. But I also, and again in the statement, I agree that no one should have this type of symbol because, yes, the Nazis did pervert the symbol that the Indians used to worship, or they still worship. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you're going to have to, even though you have morals of having freedom of speech and freedom of religion, you do need to tell yourself there might be limits to that. There might be something that you have to drop on your morality to get the greater good forward. So, like what so going back to my statement, there's always going to be an argument to be made. Like, what do we do about video games that have the prominent symbol of hate? Wolfenstein, do we allow such a game to be made? Easy Red 2 is a historical, but do we allow this? I didn't write that sentence correctly. Easy Red 2 is historical, but do we allow this? Or a movie like Inglourious Bastards. When it comes to freedom of speech, there is no right answer. It could be right for this and next transition of power in a democracy, but any laws/rules passed will be used for a leader who we do not like. So an example which I know I put in below is George W. Bush and Obama. George W. Bush passed the Patriot Act, which gave them more freedoms to spy on us and, collect more data. Obama expanded that power and made it worse. And then when Trump came into power, he abused the shit out of it. There is, the people that rule need to know about the consequences of what they are passing. because everything doesn't stay stagnant. It is constantly flowing. So when you pass a law, you need to be prepared if a Republican has power, or someone you don't like has power, like let's say Rand Paul, for example, to be the least evil, but I consider him pretty evil. If Rand Paul was to gain presidency, the laws that you passed in the past, how do you think they will use that? Is the thinking that needs to be in the mind. So going back to my statement, I'm going to go ahead and rewind it. But any laws, rules passed will be used for a leader who we don't like Trump. When Obama expanded the Patriot Act from W. Bush, those who paid attention saw the problems that would later arise. Trump now had control of that expanded power and abused it. People don't think beyond themselves and don't think about later consequences of the current actions. That's the problem with this talk. So again, I agree in the premise of what he says, but he's thinking about now and not later. So like when I think about Asmongold, he does deserve to be in jail because he's a homicidal maniac and constantly spouts out, these people deserve to die. I hope they kidnap more people. And I have 2 videos, very prominent Asmongold clips. They're like 10 minutes long each, that show that he is a danger to society and deserves to be locked up. He does not deserve to have a platform to spew his rhetoric. But we need to understand that this can forever expand. So we need to either be specifically target Asmongold or whatever the creator that IHatePolitics mentioned, or it's going to be forever expanding to be used in other means like it is being used now. So then his response was, being progressive Palestinian is not hate speech, period, false equivalence. Completely disregarded what I just said and all of the above. He saw at the beginning that I wrote, but you have to remember the Palestinians are the enemy of the current government. So because you and I support them, we are speaking hate speech towards Israel and therefore anti-Semite. That's what he responded to. Nothing else, just the top part. So my response is, you're not listening. The shifting in power is what determines what is free speech. And then he responded, no, principles are principles and rights are rights regardless of who's in office. They don't get to fear-monger the rules, and damn sure no other country is gonna dictate what's legal or not. Power is with the people, not these politicians. So let me respond. Let me explain this in another way. Mamdani is leader of New York City. He is a mayor that was elected by the people to represent the people. If he took money and started to go back on his word and started to support ICE and their kidnappings endeavors, he will lose the people's support and lose the next election in 2 years. Which means while he's in charge, the people has no power until the next election. They can protest, Mamdani can send the police. You can boycott, Mamdani can subsidize the losses with billionaire money. Everything I said is to point out that our pressure can only go so far. How do you think AI data centers are being pushed through and unchecked? Because the corrupted elected officials are still in power and they will rush the building until they lose power. When we elect the next official, they will have to decide to honor the contract that was signed, I am adding that, or make the business waste money in court. That can take to the next election to hopefully butter the next politician and keep the status quo going. This has been the big struggle for many years. This is how we got Trump. The things we passed in the past have allowed him to take the government over with no oversight, as he is the oversight, and will remain the oversight unless we can get enough Democrats in power to rush a conviction and impeach him swiftly. And this brings us to Graham Plattner here. Because, oh my gosh, horrible accusations, and the evidence has come out and it looks pretty solid, and it looks like he's going to drop out. However, understand that he won the vote, and there was only a week left before it was finalized, and then this came out. The timing is too perfect, because now we are back to the Kamala Harris situation. Now, Kamala Harris had a genocide under her belt, so there's a little false equivalence there. However, the Democrats need to decide if they're just going to choose one again, which would be a DNC schmuck, or if they're going to allow another quick vote that will take 20-ish days, and then we have to do this process again. Understand that this is a mess, because now we're at the point where, with Tallarico here in Texas, where Paxton and the other freak were fighting it out. Tallarico was just able to go talk to the people, campaign, and make his speeches while they spent money fighting it out. This is what's happening here in Maine. It's going to happen in Maine. They're going to have to spend more money, do more debates, make more ads, and then once we figure out our shit, then we can go back to fighting Susan Collins. It's not good. And then on top of all that, I expect, and this is me throwing a guesstimation number, 15% that won't vote now, that voted for Plattner. So now there's even less votes to fight against Susan Collins, because they were felt betrayed, and rightfully so. The people need to understand that they have to go against their morality. Is it wrong to abuse women? Absolutely. I hated Plattner anyway because he had the Nazi tattoo, and because he had the Nazi tattoo, I expected something like this. If I give you a Nazi title, I expect some sort of abuse going on. I expect some sort of genocidal rhetoric. I expect you to bend the rules. So I already didn't like Plattner. So the problem being is that he won the vote, and now we're in this mess. And now I expect Illinois to be a loss. I expect the Republicans to hold that seat. That's what I expect. I know that people are wanting this person named Troy, who I know nothing about. That's my ignorance on my part. So if they choose Troy, maybe there's a fighting chance. And then, of course, if they choose Troy, I will look into him. But right now, I don't see that, because the DNC was out. Now they have their hand back in, and not just their hand. They can control whether they either do this vote thing that'll take 20 days or just choose someone and run with it. They would rather have a progressive lose than for a Democrat to win. This is the battle that I've been spouting on my channel, on my Blue Sky, because we are not just fighting MAGA. We are fighting the oligarchy system. MAGA is over. I think their rule is done. But if we don't get enough oligarchy people out, then we're going to get another Trump, just a different name. And one of the people that I bring up every now and then, but she hasn't shown her stuff yet, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She can be the new face of MAGA, just because she's against Epstein, and that is such strong position. She's a conspiracy nut. She lies. She voted for Trump 90 whatever percent, 80 something percent of the time. Doesn't matter. The fact that she stood against her ground against Epstein, that is a strong position. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the people need to actually understand that your morality means dick right now. You have no morality because we're losing all our rights and the right to live. We are a statistic to be used until the planet falls apart. And that's what they're trying to do. You heard about the Peter Thiel's cult. You heard about these secret societies that have been forming, like the MAGA cult. Where Israel is doing this war to bring out the resurrection of Jesus, which is just a cover story for the people in power, just letting you know. The reason why they're doing this war is because they don't want to be prosecuted. As long as they're at war, they don't get prosecuted. Little weird rule, but okay. But that's where we're at right now. So, and then we had the discussion, which was a totally different discussion that we were supposed to have, because he was going to challenge me on the ideas, but because of the Plattner situation came out, that discussion took over, which is fine. It was a huge deal, came out of nowhere, happened right before this call happened. So everything that was said in that discussion supports the idea that I've been spouting, because he wants to give up. He says he can't support I hate politics is what I'm talking about. He wants to he can't support the Democratic Party anymore after this election, and will vote third party even though it's a losing position, because they keep betraying him and lying to him and doing all this stuff that like not rescinding Trump's rules that he passes, or Republican rules in general, not just Trump. So this is my response that I was typing in as they were discussing. And I think I'm going to do the voice call next time, because even though I was typing, I wasn't getting real responses, which is fine. That's understandable. It's just my brain has a limited capacity to communicate correctly. I'm far better off ripping off people like a comedian, where they make a joke and then you rip off of him and you go back and forth. I'm good at that in the political talk. But I didn't, since it was all about Plattner, I didn't have enough evidence at the time and I couldn't say anything. So I pretty much left it alone. But as the conversation was going, this is what I wrote. This actually ties into discussion we had on YouTube, I Hate Politics, as it's what I've been pointing out. Principles are principles, rights are rights, is what you wrote. This story is exactly my point. Everything that was just said, we argued over. We agree on the quote itself, but I do not agree this is how it will play out, or it's a winning strategy. Much like Republicans doing the gerrymandering, those who were against it supported blue states in doing the same. Those who hate the Supreme Court agrees in breaking the norm and pack the courts, as it's the only way we win, by playing equally dirty. Does this translate to Plattner if his allegations are true? Hard to say, but I don't see a winning strategy if he drops out. We don't have a right to have any morals to stand on at this point. We have concentration camps. We are attacking nations all over the place. We are losing our rights because we decided to play the high ground while they went low. They won because they have no morality or sense of self-thought. MAGA wants to be told what to do. They control the country because of this cult togetherness of hate. Principles means nothing if you don't have the rights to practice those principles. And then I go on to say, things are very desperate. There is a scenario that Plattner still wins because at least he didn't visit the island. That's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. He allegedly committed a crime against a couple of women at most. He didn't support ICE and its kidnappings, agrees with Israel is genociding, is for Bernie Sanders' position. It is very desperate. Things are bad right now. Sorry, I'm getting tired of talking. This is another problem I have is my nerves, that because the voice causes vibrations, it affects me. So I am hurting in the throat right now. But we have lost all our rights right now. And this isn't even the start of anything. Everything I explained right there, we are just talking about politicians, um, politician morality, and how they don't follow the rules, and don't rescind any laws that are completely breaking society. So I actually wrote a pretty long script because this is the conversation I expected to have before the Platinum News came out of nowhere and trashed everything I was going to say. So this is what I wrote in my book because I knew my communication skills was a little lacking. So I made a script for myself. So let me start off by saying I agree in full that people should vote with their wallet. The way we spend money is how society is formed. Voting with your wallet is not a slogan. We fully agree. My but, which leads to our disagreement, is from what I've seen. I'm sure we will have many examples to share as this will be a back and forth, but my main example to bring up is DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, Flint, Microsoft, Ubisoft, and our food in general. Let me take a drink real fast. This is a long one. The food part is easy, but I cannot explain it properly. I have a grotesque video I would like to share, which I will share in the description, that explains it in detail and visually will shock you on what you are eating, what we are all eating here in America. No amount of boycotting is going to help with this, as we all need to eat. And as long as it tastes decently, it will be munched on, as we require substance to survive. I put to eat, but that's wrong. Substance to survive. The hardest argument I have for you is the Standing Rock protest that lasted for 10 months. 10 excruciating months in heat and in cold, from dusk till dawn. Even under the stars, they were pepper sprayed, rushed, played ear-piercing sounds, sneak attacks, water hosed, anything you've seen in the history books to today. For 10 months, they protested. Obama, in an interview, said in an exact quote when asked about DAPL, "I'm going to let things play out." The president of change was in charge and the people power wasn't enough. The pipeline was still built over their cemeteries. They lost their drinking water source, and that pipeline was so rushly built that it spilled 400,000 gallons the first time. Yes, it spilled again. The people elected Obama for change, and he stood by and watched as many as 540 officers from 75 different agencies from 10 different states that were paid by the corporations involved attempted to remove Americans, the Sioux, from their land. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's SIOUX. I can share that as well, as the reporting was done and shown by Jordan Sheridan, who also has done investigations into Flint's water corruption crisis, which Obama was also a part of in the cover-up. I'll argue the rest accordingly as I hear your stated argument, but all of this is to say we are where we are now because the people power wasn't enough, and when it is enough, like we both feel like it is now, it's due to reaction, not planned. To my eyes, it's still not organized. Still a mess of people with no clear goals, except that this all sucks and we need something better. I'll expand on this in my flipping pages, gaming example, but what are your thoughts currently? And then I'm going to go ahead and continue. The gaming example brings us to Ubisoft. This is just corporate America in general, as they bought the rules that they want, but Ubisoft is a massive problem for the world, as they have argued to the EU Parliament and got a law passed in California, AB 2426, taking away our rights of ownership. The reason Sony was able to take away our license is because of Ubisoft, and this is something I didn't put in, but in the TOS of Sony, which I have read before, you can find it. It has, what game did I use? Astrobot. I use Astrobot as an example. You can, I'll post it below, but you could also find it. That I read the TOS, and in the TOS, you have to abide by California's laws, unless the state has a contradictory law. But even then, you have to sue them in their state, is what you agree to. All our rights as human beings is being stripped from us. This story matters because their company is going under. They are having to close studios and sell/lease their IPs to Tencent, a Chinese company. They may be in trouble due to boycotts and business practices, but they are taking our rights with them. It isn't just racism, kidnappings, taxes being stolen. It's everything we consume as well. We are not organized enough to take on all this. I haven't even mentioned Epstein Island 2.0 Activision, where 700 sexual assault allegations have been filed and ignored. And when the government did get involved, they botched all the investigations and lawsuits, so they got away with everything. I watched as many massive channels reported on all the abuses, and I would like to name a few just to know that I do not like you. I watch your content because this is how I get informed, but I do not like you. So, Angry Joe, Skill Up, Belladar News, Gamer Ranks, who else? Luke Stevens, and there's a couple of other ones that I'm forgetting, but these channels constantly report the news, do nothing, and then review and or make content on the company that they just reported the abuses from. So like Angry Joe as an example, he still reviews Call of Duty, and then of course the one that pissed me off the most is he was so adamant about Madden being the face of their next game that he called for a boycott and then reviewed their game anyway and played their game because of content. And just to show that, yeah, this game is still trash. He does it every year. He gets mad, calls for a boycott every now and then still does the same thing. It doesn't matter. The people aren't organized enough because of assholes like Angry Joe, who has power because of the amount of following he has and does fuck all with it. He just makes money off of the content. Oh my gosh. Okay. So to rewind it a little bit, I watched as many massive channels report on all the abuses and still bought and reviewed their game/products that they produced. The outrage activism did nothing. The channel subscribers did the same. To reiterate, we are going to reverse course. This is a fact. But to go back to our argument, you say the people have the power, and we do, but I haven't seen it beyond the elections. Once the representative is chosen, we have to wait till the next election, just from what I've seen. As a final point, I'm having to either write legislation and somehow meet Tallarico and explain this digital ownership crap and leave it to him to attempt to get something passed, or talk to a lawyer to sue Sony for our own ownership to exist with Social Security funds. As that is all I have, while the big channels that report the news has and does nothing. Things will change as everyone is amped up in fear and anger, but it is still unorganized. The people do not know how much they are losing. With Israel buying TikTok, the UK trying to control YouTube's algorithm, and with X being controlled by Mecha Hitler, the information given is solely relied on streamers to tell them how to think, which also brings me to Graham Plattner back in, because Hassan Piker got, endorsed Plattner and got his followers to do it. And I don't know if his followers would have done it. Because people are, and I'll mention, you know what, I'll go ahead and continue reading because I do mention that. Trusting the corporate algorithm to curate the people into an organized disorganization. It matters who leads in the current moment because the people have been incapable to do anything but create headaches. Cop City was still built despite a good amount of resistance. Having morals has mattered little, even though it should. I agree with you on the premise, but I have not seen change beyond the election. Once we elect, that seems to be it, and we have to trust that the reins of control are in good hands. No amount of principles has persuaded anyone in power today. We have a government in transition because the previous government has fundamentally failed. This election will decide either a democracy in repair, transition in full fascism, or go back to Obama oligarchy years, which would lead to another Trump but a different name. Oh fuck. That's a lot. But I have more. How long did I have? Okay, I got 43 minutes. I'm in 43 minutes in. I have 13 minutes to spare. So let's get this done. So I'm actually going to play for you this video up to a certain point. This is all AI generated, but it is so powerful. And the character that I love so much in Star Wars, Admiral Thrawn, was done so well that I did take it to heart. So we're going to listen to it to a certain point.
Citizens of Coruscant, look at your sky. Once those towers reflected certainty. Once those lanes of traffic, those endless lights, those great halls of governance, promised permanence. And yet, the Empire fell. Not because it lacked fleets. Not because it lacked weapons. Not because it lacked fear. It fell because it confused fear with control. Fear is a spark. It blinds. It burns quickly. Control is a system, a discipline that survives the night. The old empire ruled by reflex, by ego, by the belief that power meant never needing to listen. It was loud. It was arrogant. And it was predictable. Predictability is not stability. It is weakness. They built monuments to themselves and called it order. They demanded loyalty and called it unity. They punished dissent and called it peace. You cannot threaten a galaxy into coherence. You can only threaten it into waiting. And waiting is what rebellion feeds on. The empire did not collapse in a single moment. It collapsed through careless decisions, made by leaders who believed they were too important to be wrong. They treated cultures like obstacles, citizens like numbers, war like theater, and strategy like an afterthought. That is not strength. That is panic wearing armor. Hear me clearly. I am not here to resurrect a corpse. I am here to rebuild a machine. A machine that does not rely on terror to function. You were told that order requires cruelty, that obedience must be forced, that fear is the only language a galaxy understands. That lie has cost you everything. Order is not cruelty. Order is competence. Order is intelligence, correctly interpreted, then acted upon with discipline. The Empire failed because it fought the galaxy it ruled. I will not fight what I can understand. I will understand what I intend to command. Look around you. Different worlds, different histories, different scars. The old empire demanded complexity, simplify itself. It punished difference, ignored culture, belief, and tradition, everything that tells you how people will act when threatened or inspired. I do not ignore these things. I study them. I have seen desperation. I have seen corruption. And I have seen what happens when uncertainty is removed. You want safe streets, trade that flows, a future that does not collapse with every rumor or explosion. I am not offering you comfort. I am offering you certainty. I will not insult you with promises of paradise. Paradise is a story told when leaders cannot build reality. Reality is built with structure, with competence, with consequences that are consistent, regardless of title or proximity to power. There will be no untouchable men, no wars of pride, no private kingdoms disguised as governance. There will be standards. There will be accountability. And there will be order, not because you are frightened, but because it works. Some of you fear that word, empire. You remember the boot, the choke, the terror. I remember it too. That is why it will not return in the same form. The old empire was a hammer. I will not be. I will be a scalpel. Precise, deliberate, unwavering. Chaos will not be fought. It will be denied oxygen. Quietly. Efficiently. Not with spectacle. With inevitability.
Okay, stop it right there. There's still like a minute 30 left, but I mentioned this in the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and read the comment. I'm running out of time here. Almost a perfect speech. When the dialogue gets to the inevitable part, the speech loses its meaning. Even though the vid is AI generated, it is powerful in its representation. The words spoken, if acted on correctly and meticulously, this person could rule comfortably. Understanding your enemy, listening to those that oppose you, creating unity organically and without using the boot, that nation will prosper and become strong. America had this mythos surrounding it. Our dialogue allowed us to abuse others, less fortunate nations. This still created many enemies, but created alliances that were supposed to be ironclad. NATO itself weakened itself because they trusted the U.S. to defend them and allowed the abusive beast to do what it wanted, and they back us. The speech here will only work for this type of existing ruler. No matter how much the person prepares, no matter how many contingencies are placed, how prosper the person makes the nation, the next leader will fail in their following. And it will inevitably go down a dark path of ruin. We all saw how the U.S. checks and balances collapsed. All the safeguards have failed due to eroding power. Corruption will always find a way to always find a place to rest its head. Being content is the greatest enemy to a nation, but that, like erosion, is inevitable. We will get our nation back, and we will repair our democracy and have new revamped alliances. Over the years, however, we will have to fight this again. Not in our lifetimes, but our next of kin. Hope will be restored, but the hearts of humanity will be seduced by the wanting of more. Like Trump, it doesn't take a majority, it only a small amount of schemers to bring its calamity. And that's what I wrote. And that's my entire spiel of my argument with I Hate Politics. Whew. I hope I got through everything clearly, and I hope I made my point across. We're not in a good place right now. And I do not know if the people are ready to actually drop some of their morals so that we can actually win. Because right now, we don't have the rights to have morals right now. We do need to play dirty. We do need to protest the politicians at home. We do need to make sure that they know that we are watching, and we need to make sure that they do what we demand, which is to clean up the mess that Trump left and to allow freedom to reign once more in the United States of America. We have a lot to do. No person should be homeless or without a job because there is so much repairing that needs to be done, starting with our infrastructure, starting with the, of course, I mentioned the inventions. Like one of the inventions I'll throw out there because I'm watching Ukraine develop these awesome destructive drones that are helping them to defend their nation and cause destruction in Russia to make them stop and to turn around and go home finally. We need to launch drones into space so that way we can get rid of satellites in a safe manner, either by plunging into something else or creating an automated space base where it's just there to destroy satellites or to make them cannibalize them to make more satellites that work better or, repair other satellites. But this whole SpaceX thing where the satellites only last 5 years and then it burns in our atmosphere with all their chemicals and metals in the air. No, there's thousands of them and we're due for a collapse in their satellites. It'll happen within our lifetimes, within the first year of a Democratic president. It's a mess. We are in trouble. Humanity will survive. I don't know how many that will be, but I do expect millions to die, like there's already a few thousand dead in France because of the heat wave that they're experiencing. It's only just begun. AC is a human right. That needs to be passed. Everyone deserves AC. That's not a question right now. Houses need to be painted white. We need some way, like I don't remember where, but I know that they're using solar panels to cover a riverway, and it's been saving water. So I hope that success continues and that they expand that, and that there's no drawbacks to what they're doing there. Because of course technology is right over the water, and then I don't know if the sun needs to hit the water a certain way to what makes it fresh water. I don't know the science behind it. I don't but our water is being drained. It's bad, and Right now, we are not organized enough to be ready. And while I'm disabled in my bed, I can't help with that organization other than spew this out, and I hope someone on the internet hears it, and then one of y'all will get active, because I'm stuck in my bed watching all this shit go down. It's bad.